So hi everybody, welcome back to another edition to our mini YouTube series all about #FemaleBoss. Today we welcome Leah Hutcheon. Hello Leah, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
So today we of course welcome Leah Hutcheon, who is the Chief Executive of Appointed. Appointed was founded back in 2011 and now operates across 23 countries, which is incredible. Power scheduling for businesses of all sizes and basically helps them turn services into bookable experiences. That sounds pretty special. I love that. That's really cool. So I suppose just to kind of kickstart the conversation, why don't you share a little bit about yourself, Leah, and what Appointed is all about?
Yeah, sure. So thank you so much for the intro. And yeah, Appointed powers businesses of all shapes and sizes to take bookings online and then helps them manage the impact of that booking through their business. We work with a whole host of different businesses. And it was interesting. So the stat there, around 23 countries, that's our direct customers. We actually did a piece of research recently and found that Appointed tools have been used to make bookings in 176 countries, I want to say.
Wow.
It's like 84% of the world, which
That's
was
awesome.
Wild, like actually wild. And I think due in part to the big step that we've all made to virtual experiences and such like. So the pandemic has obviously forced lots of us online and has opened up the world. So we now power bookings for a lot of luxury retailers, lots of different we power 2 of the big 4 consultancies. So we power lots of global businesses who can then make their services bookable anywhere in the world. So that huge step up in numbers has been amazing. And we were so proud to see the list of countries where Appointed's tools have been accessed to make a guaranteed booking. So yeah, really, really exciting. We're based in Edinburgh ourselves. So as you said, I started the company in 2011 when I was made redundant in the backdrop of the last financial crash. So I had taken, I'd been made redundant and I'd started working on a project, it felt like to me at the time. I was freelancing and consulting, and Appointed was kind of an idea that I'd had, and it was a very different business model really. But that idea, I took a couple of years just working on it as a proof of concept for the initial project. And then I won one of the very first Scottish Edge Awards, which I know you guys are supported by Scottish Enterprise. Appointed has been so well supported by Scottish Enterprise and the Scottish ecosystem. So first of all, Scottish Edge, which gave me £30,000 to hire our first developer. And we then went on and raised investment and have built a team. So we're now a team of 30. Based in Edinburgh, we've raised around £2.5 million of equity investment. And yeah, we're having a great time building some world-class software, working with some of the world's biggest and best brands, and yeah, helping consumers make bookings for all sorts of different experiences.
That's amazing. You must be so proud of yourself.
Definitely have moments where it's like, oh my gosh, how did that happen? There's been lots of hard work and the team is amazing. We're really lucky that everyone is super passionate and super kind of up for the challenge of kind of doing what they can. We really try and encourage all of the team to act like the CEO, and we have a share option scheme. So everybody employed by Appointed has share options in the business. So we're all really incentivized to push ourselves to make this the best business that it can be, because that means that we will all benefit from it. So yeah, there's been lots of blood, sweat and tears.
As always.
Yeah, absolutely very proud of what we've been able to achieve.
No, that's fantastic. I love that. And I think moving towards like the conversation about Scottish Edge, actually, because through our #FemaleBoss initiative, we've now gave young people the opportunity to access a little bit more funding. So that's supported by Scottish Enterprise and the Royal Bank. But with our Mover Up category, we're actually going to be giving one of the 5 students who are in that particular category the opportunity to be entered into Young Edge. So they then can obviously go from the hashtag Female Boss Initiative, hopefully use that £2,000 for the business they're already kind of working on, and then they can get the next option to take part in Young Edge, and then have the opportunity to potentially win £15,000 to take that business idea that little bit further. Yeah. And of course, get all the amazing support that comes with working with Edge as well. So, I mean, that's something that you've been through, and it'd be fab if you maybe share a little bit how your experience was and what it was like doing the competition.
Yeah, absolutely. So I honestly don't think Appointed would be here if it wasn't for Edge. I started the company with essentially my overdraft and my credit card, and I was freelancing. Everything that I was making from kind of freelancing was going into building the proof of concept. I don't have a technical background, so I worked with a small agency in Edinburgh to do that. And Edge came along at a time where I was kind of out of options as to how I got that next stage of funding. We weren't ready at that point. We'd started speaking to investors, and again, I'm using the royal we there. I'd started speaking to investors, and we just weren't in a place that the product was yet kind of undeniable for investors. So Edge came along whilst I was part of Entrepreneurial Spark, which was backed by Royal Bank of Scotland as well, again, a fellow backer. So I was in Entrepreneurial Spark, and they had highlighted Edge and highlighted it as a potential kind of funding path. And yeah, if I hadn't have received that cash at that point, I honestly don't know if the business could have made that step to the next stage. So people often ask me, like, how did you were you nervous going in and pitching? And I was actually doubly nervous, because at the time there was a BBC documentary being filmed about Entrepreneurial Spark. So not only did I have to pitch my business to a really impressive room of judges, but I had to do it with a TV camera in my face as well, and try and get the funding that I needed to keep the business alive. So yeah, that day was absolutely terrifying. And yeah, I remember lots of nerves, lots of stress running up to it, but it was absolutely worth every moment of it. And the £30,000 allowed me to hire our first in-house developer. So It was an absolute game changer for the business. It definitely couldn't have been more needed at that point. I think the only downside I would say, and just it's not a downside, it's just something to be aware of in a way that I don't think I was necessarily aware of, is when you bring in that kind of cash into the business and make that kind of decision to spend it on your first hire. Up until that point, it had been, I wasn't taking a salary, there wasn't really any real cost bases in the business. It was all kind of hustle and just getting done. And then kind of starting the ticking time bomb of payroll was pretty scary, and it then necessitated very quickly, we very quickly ended up with a runway of okay, we're going to run out of money on this date, so we have to do everything. But again, probably the best thing for us, because it honed my mind. It made me make really tough choices, because you're then you've attracted a really great talent away from a very stable job to come and take a risk and join this company. So yeah, lots of lessons in those early days that I wouldn't change it for the world.
No, absolutely. And I mean, did you go to university? Did you study business at uni, or did you have any kind of experience in business before you set up Appointed?
No, so I have a drama and theatre arts degree. So
I love that. I studied musical theatre as well.
Oh really? Well, there we go.
Yeah, I love that.
I couldn't even sing. So but no, it was a great experience in pitching and that sort of,
yeah, definitely
getting up on stage. You're used to thinking on your feet and reacting to things as they happen, and the show must go on, and in nowhere else is it more pertinent than in a startup where you're just reacting to things, and you've got customers. For us, Appointed as a business critical tool, the businesses that use Appointed rely on it to do really key functions within their business. So yeah, it definitely got me ready for kind of having to just keep everything going at all costs. And I think it was good experience in that way. But no real grounding in business as such, albeit I'd had a varied career. So after university I'd come and worked in a theatre and comedy production role, so I was doing lots kind of on the business side of shows rather than on stage, kind of very much making things happen backstage. And then from there had gone and done a management trainee and that sort of thing. So I had some basic, but not a lot, and not a lot of practical stuff to draw on for a SaaS technology startup.
That's amazing. That's so interesting. I love that, and it's so true. And it's definitely one of the things that we really try to share with the students, because through Bridge to Business, what we're trying to do is plant the seed of enterprise and show that, there are other avenues. And it's not that we're saying to them that what they're studying right now isn't the route that they should go down, but it's evident that you and I both studied something quite similar, and you're still running your business. I've run a business before and now work within enterprise within obviously the Bridge to Business program here at Young Enterprise Scotland, and you can learn so much by doing, and that's what we're all about. And you're a perfect example of that, that you've went out there, you took the risk, and you've made a great success of it, which is fantastic, and it's very, very inspiring. And of course it's very difficult as well running a business. Mm-hmm. So what would you say have been some of your struggles that you faced, and how have you overcame them through the journey of your business?
There are just so many struggles, aren't there? It's a hard one to really, like, raising that first investment. And as I say, Edge was so wonderful because it gave me that kickstart that I needed. It gave me an injection of cash that we could spend wisely and use to prove things. And I think that for me is probably the biggest learning, that like the challenges are putting one foot in front of another day after day, making the micro decisions that we all have to make in business, and trying to use your resources, whether it's cash or people or your own time, as wisely as possible to prove the next steps. I think the learning curve of raising investment, I mean it was brutal, especially in the early days, and it's never really easy, because the more you prove out, then the higher the kind of higher your valuation, so then the more you need to prove out, so the game always, the travelator is always going up, kind of thing. But I think going through the process and using it as a learning experience, I think for me has always been great. It's like really listening to what investors want from you, listening to the questions that they're asking. And obviously, you're always going to know your business better than anybody else does, but like using that to hone your mind to like, right, okay, this is what they want to see from me. So how do I do that in the most efficient way with as little cash as possible? And if you can, how do I use that to really surprise and overachieve on this, so that people realize how good this opportunity is? So I think it's like using the challenges to push you further as much as anything. But we've been really lucky. I mean, there's so many challenges in any business, but I do think we have great people around us. We've gotten great advisors around us. We've got great board members and investors and such like. So it's definitely been made easier because of that, because I've got great people around me.
Oh, absolutely. And that's so important, and not just in business, in life in general, because, running a business and starting up and whatnot, it can be a very lonely place if you don't have that good support network, because it's blimmin' hard work. Yeah. And not everyone will understand the slog behind it. There's lots of amazing highs that you'll have with running your business, but there absolutely is some days where you just want to cry, because it can be so stressful. So surrounding yourself with good mentors and a good network is just absolutely vital. And in terms of like mentorship and stuff like that, is that something that you've used yourself to, like, for self-development within your current role and to run Appointed?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I really believe in. And we're trying at the moment to get mentors for all of the team. We're at about 70% of the team now has a mentor or a coach who they can work with really kind of actively to solve problems and get creative. But I do think, to your point around like your network, I think that's as important, if not more important. You know, for me, back in Entrepreneurial Spark, seeing businesses who were at the same stage as we were, having like amazing days or really low days, that was, I think, more helpful and supportive. And I would imagine, you know, the businesses going through Bridge to Business will have that same experience of, you can look around and think, well, I'm having what feels like the worst day in my business, but actually I know that yesterday my pal went through something, you know, much worse, or you know, last week somebody had an amazing day, and that's where I want to get to, so I'm going to use that to spur me on. So I think having friends and kind of peers who are going through similar things, for me, has been the most nourishing and the most important part of my journey. And you know, some of them become your very best friends, don't they? So I've got a lot of friends now who, you know, I can turn to on work stuff, but also just life stuff, and they get it, they understand it. So I would say, go out and get coaches, mentors, build an advisory board. Then, you know, when you get to the stage, build a real board. All of that stuff is really important. But mainly just surround yourself with people who are trying to do similarly crazy, ambitious things, and you'll help each other be spurred on by that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love that so much. Mentorship is a massive part of the #Female Boss Initiative. I mean, the students who are allocated the awards for, you know, our starter up category, which is a grant of £1,000. Then we've got the mover up, which is £2,000 grants I mentioned previously. They're all going to be allocated a mentor, you know, and that's just so vital at that early startup stage as well, to gain knowledge from people who have been through the experience that you're at, you know, because you can just learn so much and be guided and hopefully kind of avoid, you know, potential bumps in the road. I mean, it's never going to be plain sailing, but just to get that knowledge, you know, just even from people like yourself who have done exactly that. I mean, you would be the most amazing mentor.
It is hard though, isn't it? Because like I so agree that you do need that. And I was just thinking back there to when I got the cash from Edge. They were great in giving guidance. They were very like hands-on on, we're going to give you this £30,000 and we want you to go and hire somebody. And they, you know, I was given a lot of support and guidance there, which for me turned out amazingly. But it is hard, like when you are mentored, because I have mentored people and I do on an ongoing basis with a few. It's so hard from the outside, you know. I think as an entrepreneur, you have to like walk that really tough line between knowing what's right for your business and believing in your vision for it and your judgment on, you know, how you spend the money or what, you know, direction you take or whatever. And then how to ask the right questions of the right people and listen to the right bits of it. And I think that is so tough, isn't it?
It really, really is. Absolutely. I completely agree. So, I mean, looking at the students who are participating in the #Female Boss Initiative, I mean, there's students who are coming onto this who are potentially not running a business at the moment or have an interest in business, and, you know, or are running something quite small and they're looking for extra support on how to scale that up that little bit more. So if you were to give like a top tip to a young woman who was looking to start up in business, what would be the top tip for them?
I would say start as small as you can with something that you're really passionate about, and not try and let perfect get in the way of good. And by that, I don't necessarily mean, you know, cut corners or not be ambitious for your idea. But I think a learning for me was I tried to outsource the technology in the early days for Appointed, and I approached one of a company that's now one of our biggest competitors to see if I could license their booking technology to place into a portal website. And they just weren't interested in doing that at that time. And, you know, that journey started a very different journey for us, and I'm actually really grateful of it, because it meant that we went and built the technology that underpins Appointed ourselves and that sort of thing. But I think with hindsight, you can get somewhere really meaningful by, especially now where there are so many off-the-shelf tools, you can get to a really meaningful place by saying, right, I'm going to take Appointed, for example. So if it was a business where it was, I want to build a marketplace for salons, which was the original Appointed idea. You can go the long route and build all of the tools yourself and own all of the IP, but it's going to, cost you hundreds of thousands of pounds and take you years. Or you can say, well, I know there's Appointed out there, and then I can connect that in with Zapier, or I can do this, and just being able to take pieces and put them together now, I think, is such a great opportunity that young entrepreneurs have to get something really meaningful up and running and prove your market, prove your assumptions, prove your ability to execute as much as anything, and then go to investors or go and raise, Edge or whatever that might look like. And I think that for me would be the best advice that I could give, is just try and get something live to prove what it could be, and then from there, don't feel like you have to hold on to everything and get it perfect before you release something. There's the whole saying, isn't there, if you're not embarrassed of your first version, then you've waited too long to ship it. And I think we've got so many great tools now that you can build something fairly easily off the shelf to get something live, which is so exciting.
Yeah, and it's a learning process. There's so many. You've got to take the risk to try new things, because if you don't, then you'll never know if it's going to work or not. And if it works, yay! If it doesn't, oh well, let's try a different way. You do have to push yourself and adapt, and that's obviously something you've done.
Yeah,
a lot, and wanted to make sure you get that end product correct for your consumers as well.
And I think your consumers are the ones who know what they want, and you can do all of the talking in the world to get to kind of an academic understanding of something, but actually getting a product into the hands of your target market and hearing like really tough feedback, that's another thing that I would say actually is like, ask for the most brutal feedback that you can get. Don't just take it to your pals and they'll be kind to you, your mum will be kind to you. Take it to people and ask them, like, what could I be doing better here, what don't you like, what search for the kind of as negative of feedback as you can get, because it just shortcuts you getting to a place that's really good. So doing anything you can to shortcut the process, because it's always takes way longer than you think it will, it's always way more expensive than you think it's going to be. So just having that mindset of like getting stuff done is really positive.
That's a brilliant piece of advice. Totally agree with that. So reflecting on your journey with Appointed, what was that kind of that point when you thought, oh my goodness, this idea that I've had is actually working? That kind of moment that just happens and you're just like, yes, it's happening.
I think I've been so lucky to have so many.
That's great.
Yeah, totally. And the business is beyond my wildest dreams now. Like, we have like pinch me moments so often where you read like 167 countries, you're like, how on earth is that even possible? How has that happened? We work with some amazing brands. We power brands like Charlotte Tilbury, Business Group uses Appointed. We have our software is in multiple different languages. I think we're about 15 different languages now. And so just like seeing those points at which you have a surprise and delight moment. And I love when we get great feedback from our clients. Like, we have, especially the small business clients, like we so love working with the household names and the big brands that everyone is like super excited about. We have some great stories of, we have like a spike in our bookings that happened because we were booking an event with Naomi Campbell. So Naomi Campbell was doing a launch event for Pat McGrath makeup, and it just like the spike in the bookings was wild. And so you have those like big bang like headline excitement points. But I think probably the ones that I love the most are where it's like a small business that are just like, my business, I wouldn't still be in business if it wasn't for Appointed. Like, Appointed helps me to manage everything in my business and streamline it. And like we'll quite often get people like commenting on our social media posts and things like that, saying like, this tool is awesome, like it just helps me do business. And I think that for me is such a proud moment, because I know how hard it is to run a business. So if we can take some of that pain and if we can make it easier, and I think especially over the last 18 months have been so brutal for all businesses, whatever business you're in, it's been really, really tough. So yeah, I so love that moment when you hear of a real difference you've made to an entrepreneur or a small business owner's life. It makes me super proud.
Oh, that's amazing. That's wonderful. And it is. I love how you're focused on the small businesses as well, for sure, because they are just people who run their salons or, hairdressers. And I imagine so many other organizations use your software. And it's just letting them have access to these tools that just makes their life so much better. And it keeps their business going without them really having to worry about something,
Exactly.
That's awesome.
And for us, we just really care about that. We want, whether you're Marks and Spencer or whether you're a small salon or a car valet who's out on the road, whatever that is, we want you to have that best of class technology. And that's been a really founding ethos for us, that it's an evergreen technology product. You can access it in the same way, whether you're huge, big brand or an independent business. And yeah, we're super proud of that.
Oh, that's brilliant. So very busy, obviously, running something absolutely incredible. Am I right in saying that you have a family? Because I think I remember it was at an Impact Summit, and you brought is it a wee girl you've got?
Yeah.
You had your daughter, and she was on the stage and she was like star of the show.
She was.
She was all chuffed and like danced about and stuff like that. So, you as an amazing entrepreneur running your business, but also becoming a mother and stuff like that, and trying to do the balance and stuff like that. What's that change been like for you?
It's been amazing. Like, honestly, I feel so fortunate to have gone through starting a family at this stage of running a business. So my daughter was born, so she's coming up for 5 next year. So she was born when the business was like 5-6 years old. So we'd raised investment. We had a much smaller team than we do now, but a really solid kind of early team. And yeah, she came along at kind of the perfect time for me to be able to step back and hand over the reins. And so we got an interim CEO in for my maternity leave, and we put all of the, as much as you can, planned the structures that needed to be in place. And yeah, she came along and just became part of the appointed family. And I think it's been so nice, like having the Impact Summit. So I'd been invited to speak, and when Adam, the organizer, had phoned me to chat about my talk, I was walking in the park with Hedy on in a sling on my tummy. He could hear her, like I'm on the phone, he's like gurgling away, and Adam was like, "You must bring her on stage." And I was like, "Oh yeah, haha." And then like when we spoke the next time, he was like, "No, I was serious. I really want you to bring her on. Like, would you do it?" And I was like, "Are you sure? Is it not too?" But it was so lovely, and the amount of people that bring it up, and we have a lovely photo of Nicola Sturgeon waving at her, and so it was just it was like a really special moment.
That's so cool.
And then later on in the afternoon, she puked all over me, so that was great. We had to go.
It's all about balance.
Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, it's so nice, and she's absolutely part of the team. And I think it's driven the agenda for us as an organization to make sure that we have as much support there for the team. We're a very cultures focused organization anyway, but I think it's really made us look at what we can do to support that kind of work-life balance and really be enable people to bring their whole selves to work.
No, absolutely. Oh, it's been so wonderful speaking to you, Leah. I feel like I could chat to you all day long. Thank you so much for taking the time to inspire the next generation of female entrepreneurs in Scotland, and maybe wider afield. Who knows? There might be someone watching elsewhere in the world and are inspired today by your story. But thank you so much for speaking to us today.